Welcome everyone. I'm sure you can hear us, but we can't hear you because you're in mute mode. My name's Michelle Livesley and I'm a consultant with an organisation called Helen Sanderson Associates. I'm here with my colleague Esther Sharma, who's also a consultant with Helen Sanderson Associates, and she's also a midwifery champion. Esther's going to be around in the background while I do the presentation, and then at the end we're going to have a question and answer session. So please do type in any questions that you have throughout the presentation, and we have a golden rule that there's no such thing as a silly question. So good evening to everybody who's here and anybody who might join us as we progress. Midwives, obstetricians, maternity care assistants, doulas, breastfeeding supporters, and anybody else who's taken the time to be with us this evening. This webinar is about one-page profiles in maternity services, and it's going to last about half an hour. So the aims of the webinar are around thinking about one-page profiles, and there's been an awful lot of discussion over the last year about one-page profiles, including among the maternity services community. But there just aren't enough characters on Twitter to explore fully what one-page profiles are, how to create them, and how they can be really effectively used as a tool to put women at the centre of their maternity care, as well as in enhancing effective team working. These are the main aims of the webinar, which will be available to watch after this evening as it's being recorded. So do pass on the details to any colleagues that you know might be interested. So what is a one-page profile? Well, it's exactly what it says on the tin. A one-page profile is a way of learning what's important to and for someone in a summarised and easy-to-read format. One-page profiles are a practical way of sharing and recording information. The purpose of a one-page profile is to provide a summary of person-centred information that people in the person's life can use to either get to know them quickly or ensure that they're providing consistent support in the way that the person wants. What they're not is the latest exercise in form filling, but by considering what's important to and for a person and what good support looks like, they're a way to create actions that really make a difference to people. A one-page profile typically has three sections: an appreciation about the person, where we find out what people value, like, love and admire, so that we're thinking about the person's, and in this case, the mum-to-be's gifts, capacities and positive qualities. It also shares what's important to people and what's important for people by having two sections on the one-page profile that capture the things that make life worth living, the things that tickle your belly and give you joy and comfort in what's important to you, but also how to keep you healthy and safe in the how best to support me section. It's really important to understand the difference between what's important to someone and what's important for someone. For example, my daughter, who's expecting her first baby, would say that right now in her life, cake is hugely important to her. However, she's incredibly concerned about gaining too much weight through her pregnancy. So it's important for her to limit the amount of cake that she wants. So we're taking into account both of these things, and we're trying to find a balance that works from an important to perspective and from an important for perspective. Historically, what we may have done is worked with people in a way that means that we only focus on what's important for them, or our predominant focus is that. One-page profiles help us to get the balance between what's important for people in relation to what's important to them as well. So I'd love to introduce you to my daughter. This is Tabitha, who is currently 38 weeks pregnant, and this is her one-page profile. And when I described a one-page profile to my daughter, what I told her was that it's a quick and really effective way of getting to know people, and it's a fantastic tool for women to use and think about their journey through pregnancy, birth and motherhood that puts them firmly in the centre of the care that they receive. A one-page profile focuses more on the woman, who she is and how to support her and what's important to her, rather than just on her preferences or what's important for her during a pregnancy, labour and birth. A one-page profile can be the first page of handheld or electronic notes and gives insight into what matters to the person from her perspective. Having this information builds rapport and trust and ensures that decisions made during pregnancy take into account what's important to her in the context of her whole life, as well as in the context of keeping mum and baby healthy and safe. The great thing about a one-page profile is that you can update it through different stages of the pregnancy. So my daughter Tabitha, who's 38 weeks pregnant, did her one-page profile, and at that time she hadn't really given a lot of thought about what mattered to her and her choices in relation to giving birth, but she was struggling at that point. She worked full-time and did long shifts through the night, and had realised that sitting in a really uncomfortable chair in front of a computer screen was contributing to real painful backache, amongst other things that was happening to her. Exploring that when we developed her one-page profile gave her the confidence to go and discuss this with her manager. She also realised that a water birth would be a preferred way of giving birth, and anyone who knows her well knows just how much time she spends wallowing in the bath at home. So being able to talk about that with a midwife meant that she could explore with her the practical implications of this. For example, there's only one birthing pool at the hospital that Tabitha's booked into. Therefore, she's now ready for plan B, just in case somebody else is using it. Meet Rowan, and this is Rowan's one-page profile. When Rowan first got pregnant with her first baby, she experienced difficulties at the beginning of her pregnancy, and she said that these set the tone for the entire pregnancy. She felt that things were out of her control. Rowan was attending antenatal classes, and it was there that she created her person-centred birth plan and one-page profile. These tools helped Rowan address and talk through her hopes and fears, and helped her to regain that sense of control that had been initially lost. When she talked about using person-centred thinking tools, one of the things that came across really strongly was being able to talk through her emotions with a partner, and feeling that was good not just for her but for both of them. And here are Rowan, John and baby Scarlett straight after the birth. Mums can even go on and develop their babies' one-page profiles, and I'm champing at the bit to develop my new grandchild's one-page profile once he makes his way into the world. One-page profiles are also used by people working in all types of health environments, social care and educational settings. And during the mother and midwife journey, we can use different person-centred thinking tools that sit alongside the one-page profile and inform the one-page profile in different situations. Here's an example of a template to use around a person-centred birth plan. This is Lowry's person-centred birth plan, and this captures what matters to the mum-to-be in her own words. It describes what's important and gives helpful instructions to anyone involved in the birth. In Lowry's birth plan, she says, "I tend to respond quite well to humour in general, and if you want me to do something and I'm not listening, humour might just work." Really helpful. We can also use the person-centred thinking tool called the donut to describe the role of the birth partner. There are 3 sections to this tool. What are my core responsibilities? Where can I use my judgment? And is there anything that's not my responsibility? Katrina, a midwife who used this tool in one of her antenatal classes, said that birth partners commented that initially it did feel a little overwhelming to have a list of things to do, but once they had time to process the list, it actually felt reassuring to them too, and enabled them to feel prepared and much more confident for the birth. Here are a couple of more person-centred thinking tools that can really help to get mum to be talking. The hopes and fears tool helps us to put into place action plans that move us towards the hopes that are articulated by mum-to-be and perhaps partner, and also to get to the surface any fears that they have, so that around both of them proactive action plans are made to move us towards the hopes and to address the fears up front and early. Another tool that really helps us is the working not working tool. And when we use the working not working tool, we would start by saying what's working and not working from mum to be's perspective. What about other people, partner, other family members, and what about from professionals' perspective, like the midwife's perspective. The working not working tool creates an agenda for good conversation and action, and really helps to get to the surface any niggles or problems that can be dealt with. The working not working tool can also help to reflect on the past pregnancy and see if there are any lessons learned from that as well. Again, the tool then is taken to action, so it feels like a really practical and useful thing to do. As I mentioned earlier, one-page profiles are being used in a variety of settings, and here's 12 benefits of using them with anyone who receives care. So imagine that we're using this in relation to mums to be. So one of the first benefits is that it shows that we value her as a person by learning what's important to her from her perspective. It also enables us to build relationships with people really quickly, and it helps us to have some different conversations. When we learn different things about the person from their one-page profile, we can use that to help personalise the care that we provide to mum-to-be. Crucially, and what my daughter certainly talked about and reflected on, was not having to keep repeating information and retelling a story because it was written down and the midwife had written that succinct information on a one-page profile. A one-page profile can also help families feel that their loved one is in really safe hands because we're really paying attention to them. A one-page profile really builds mutual respect between the mother and the midwife through sharing one-page profiles. So imagine when you've developed your mum-to-be's one-page profile with her, and you're sharing yours as a midwife as well. A one-page profile also helps in supporting shared decision making. It empowers mum-to-be to talk about what matters to her, and crucially how she wants to be supported, so self-directing her support and care wherever possible. A one-page profile helps to prevent us making assumptions about people, and I'm certainly guilty of that and have been set straight by what people have told me when I've developed their one-page profile. It's a quick and easy way to share information, and it can really improve discharge planning, making sure people go home safely. And in some situations, it's a good way to match mums-to-be to the right professional, and it can result in a better experience for everyone all round. One hospital is using one-page profiles with anybody who comes into their care, any of their patients, and they've created a handheld document, a leaflet, that describes how they use one-page profiles, what they're good for, and how to develop one. And this is seen as really good practice when we're thinking about self-care and people being empowered around their health. Earlier this year, we midwives hosted a Twitter chat or tweet chat around one-page profiles, and this generated loads of discussion around the benefits of using these powerful tools to promote person-centred care in maternity services. As a result of this Twitter chat, a number of midwives created their own, and this one is one that was developed by Jenny, that she gave permission for us to share, which was brilliant of her. There's no doubt that for most maternity services, working towards becoming a person-centred department, providing person-centred care, is what people are already doing, but these tools can help us significantly build on that. And what that might take is some cultural and systemic shifts, but it's absolutely necessary in order to provide such great care and support for women at one of the most important times of their life. Tools such as this allow midwives and the wider maternity services in teams to understand and support each other really well as enhancing the partnerships of supervisors of midwives and creating person-centred organisations. Here are 10 benefits of using one-page profiles with colleagues, and both Esther and I have one-page profiles and use them as a way of building our relationship and supporting each other really well. But here's some other reasons for using a one-page profile with colleagues. So it really ensures that everybody's seen as a person, as an individual, and we would feel, and I do feel, valued. And a one-page profile really helps us to build mutual respect for one another. The more we know about each other, the more we work well together. It also improves partnerships between mum and professionals and helps to deliver much better outcomes. A one-page profile helps us to know what good support looks like to our colleagues, and for us to tailor our support to each other as well. It can really nip in the bud any problems or barriers in communication really quickly, and it really helps to harness our talents and skills better because we've recorded that in the appreciation section. One of the things a one-page profile does is, because we understand each other better, we become more tolerant of each other and better understand why we do things in different ways and why some things are a greater priority to me than, say, they might be to Esther, and vice versa. A one-page profile also helps communication across hierarchies, and in some of the best person-centred organisations that I've worked with, everybody in the organisation has a one-page profile, from director or CEO to anybody who has a role within the service. A one-page profile is an individual way of contributing to the greater culture of the team. So it creates helps to contribute to a person-centred team and creates a sense of belonging. We can learn from each other, sharing experiences and skills, because we've got those on the one-page profile as well. And in some situations, a one-page profile can inform us around who the best person to match our skills to, or as mentors or as projects and tasks as well. So a one-page profile is a really helpful tool to use along with the other person-centred thinking tools, not just for mums-to-be, but also for anybody working in maternity services. But we can get them wrong, and if we were going to mess up developing one-page profiles with people, what we would see would be generic or vague information that wasn't specific enough. We might see that it didn't reflect what mattered to mum as an individual as well. And if it was approached as just another form to fill in, we would lose sight of those fabulous conversations that helped to gather the information. And we'd know we'd really messed it up if it was simply a list of likes and dislikes. But how do we know if we're doing them right? Well, we would have captured a summary of what really matters to mum-to-be, and we would, and it would reflect in the best way to support her from her perspective, rather than me assuming what I think is the right way to do that. And if you gave the one-page profile to somebody and they read it and felt that they'd got a really good insight into the person and felt that they almost knew them, then you would know that you'd created a great one-page profile. The best way to get involved in one-page profiles is to do your own, and you can have the fabulous We Midwives template to complete your own one-page profile, and I know some of you have already got that and are already using that. But a wonderful way to start is to go home to the people who love you and care about you and ask them to tell you 3 things that they appreciate about you to start your one-page profile. If you're going to do this, be prepared to say something back. When I asked my son what he liked and admired about me, he came right back at me and said, "And what about me, Mum?" So that's the end of my presentation. I hope what you've heard is that using one-page profiles creates a real win-win situation for mum-to-be and for anybody who works in maternity services as well.